Now, I have the lovely and talented and amazing Jessica Graham, who has graciously volunteered to come here and be in our group. And I feel like we're all sort of having one of those big worldwide, countrywide moments where a lot of us are facing a lot of anxiety, and we are being told to sort of stay at home, and we are not having our usual routines, and everything feels very uncertain. And so with so much out of our control, it's good sometimes to look to someone who understands how to meditate, how to be quiet in these moments and not allow the anxiety overtake. So I've invited Jessica, who does a much better job with her anxiety than I do, and she's going to kind of give us some tips and help us all to maybe feel a little better here this morning, and then go out and have a better day and afternoon. So Jessica, I'm going to let you take over.
All right. Hi. Thanks so much, Jessica, for inviting me to be here. And thanks for just your friendship and your amazing creative collaboration. It's been such a total pleasure to know you and work with you over these years and to connect with you on multiple levels. So thank you. So first of all, why don't we just settle in just a little bit together? So if you want, you can go ahead and close your eyes. And we're just going to be here for a moment, just to start to create the container for this time together. So closing your eyes and settling into a position that feels comfortable for you. And that could be sitting, it could be lying down, it could be standing, it could even be walking. You can do what we're going to do while you walk around if that's what feels authentic for you right now. But I would encourage you to get some stillness going if that's doable. So just find yourself in a position that allows you to come into some stillness, allowing the body to just rest for a moment.
I'm sorry, but I'm trying to do the opposite of what I just did.
And taking a few nice, slow, deep breaths. Just breathing in deep into the belly. And then let's have the exhale just a bit longer than the inhale. So I'll count a few out for you. Let's breathe in for 2, 3, 4. And let's exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So take a few more like that on your own. Extending the exhale a bit longer than the inhale, helping to calm the nervous system, helping the body to settle in, to arrive right here, right now in this moment. Breathing in and breathing out. Slowing down. And now I want you to just find one thing in your body that feels good, or even just feels neutral. A place in the body where there's no problem, there's no anxiety, there's no discomfort. And it could be that it's just a neutral spot, like maybe your hands or your feet. It also might be that you're aware of some pleasant sensation somewhere else in your body, in your face or your stomach or your chest. And even if you're experiencing anxiety, right near that anxiety might be another sensation that feels okay. So choosing something that's easy to focus on, a sensation that is non-problematic, just putting your attention there for just a moment. And if you get pulled into the mind, that is not a problem. That is what our minds do. They think thoughts. So just bringing your attention gently back to something that feels okay in your body for just another moment here. Okay, really good. Go ahead and open your eyes when you're ready, if they're closed. And we're going to be doing a little bit more practice, but I just wanted to start with just a little bit of settling in and arriving, um, slowing down. So we're all being forced to slow down right now, or many of us are. Certainly our schedules are changing. Certainly the way in which we spend our days is changing. But this slowing down of kind of the normal day to day doesn't necessarily mean that our systems slow down. It certainly doesn't mean that our minds slow down. If anything, when we have less going on, the mind might start to compensate for that and get even busier, get even more full. And so just taking a moment, even a minute or 30 seconds, a couple times a day, to just take a few breaths, to breathe in and then extend your exhale, breathe out, do that a few times. It will start to change the architecture of your day in some pretty magical ways. And it's really simple. And it's just about building that habit. So the very first tool I want to offer you is that throughout today and tomorrow and the next day, and maybe onward from there, and maybe beyond this crisis, find moments in your day, maybe it's every few hours, that you just pause and you just breathe. And that extended exhale is going to help the whole body to calm, and it's going to help to ease anxiety and stress. And so if you can start to create a pattern of that through your day, it's going to inform the way that you're responding to everything. It's going to inform the way that you respond to your loved ones, to your family, to yourself. And it's going to inform the way that you respond and interact with your creativity, with your art. Sometimes there can be this manic energy that can be really great for art. It's like, all right, I got to get it done. I got to get it done. So I'm also a filmmaker and an actor and a writer. And so I know that energy and how helpful it can be. But if it's chronic, then we start to get burnout. And right now we're in a mode where there's just excess anxious, manic energy that's available to us. And so we want to just be really conscious around that and mindful around that, and set ourselves up to really be able to show up for our lives in a way that feels good and feels authentic. And one of those tools is just to slow down. It's just to pause throughout the day and just be here. So let's just do it one more time right now with our eyes open, just breathing. Right? We can stop on a dime and just let ourselves breathe. It's as simple as that. And it's just about building the habit. And I know for some of you, you probably already have some of these habits and probably already using them. And so, it's just about continuing that. And if this is brand new to you, it's not as challenging as it seems to start up a meditation and mindfulness practice. And it can be as simple as 30 seconds here or there to start. So one of the things I want to talk about before we dive into a little bit more practice is something I've been noticing, which is for a lot of folks, this time of pause is bringing out a lot of perfectionism and bringing out a lot of kind of an overachiever self. Like, okay, I have this extra time. I need to do all of my art. I need to do all of the things that I haven't done yet. I need to complete every project because I have this time. And that's basically like telling ourselves we're supposed to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's not sustainable. And it basically just sets us up to feel like we're failing every day. And so I've been encouraging the folks that I work with to create a schedule for yourself and stick to it as the best that you can. But even that, to be flexible around, because this is something none of us have experienced before. None of us know how to go through the coronavirus crisis and do our art because we've never done it before. And so we want to be very gentle with ourselves and really patient with ourselves and be aware of that voice that's saying, oh, well, that person on Instagram, they just completed their screenplay, or they just finished their, you know, editing all their photos. And here I am still in my pajamas, and I ate ice cream for dinner last night. Like, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. We are all really doing our best. And, you know, I'm a meditation teacher, right? That's one of my jobs. I'm also doing my best. Like, yeah, I have tools for anxiety, but that doesn't mean that I don't still feel anxiety, right? Like, this is a really intense time. And so none of us are doing this perfectly. None of us are. And it's not possible. It's not ever possible to do it perfectly anyway. You know, that's the beautiful thing about being human. We're these imperfect creatures. A big part of meditation for me is about self-love. A big part of being an artist for me is about self-love. It's been years that I've been on this path, and I still have that voice that says, you're not very good at this. Oh, you're not gonna be able to continue doing this work because you just aren't good enough. And everyone's going to find out. You know, it's like that voice is still there in certain ways. Now, I don't believe it the way that I used to, right? Because it's just some thoughts. So I've been observing my thoughts for a bunch of years now, and they become less powerful. They become less real to me as far as something that dictates how I live or who I am. But it doesn't mean it doesn't still come up. And especially when we're in times of high stress, which we all are right now on some level or another, our old patterns pop back up because it's, you know, it's like what we come from. These patterns of not good enough, these patterns of, you know, you're not a real artist. These patterns were originated when we were, for most of us, when we were quite young. And they oftentimes are not even our voice. It's somebody else who maybe was doing the best they could do, but put some negative narrative in our minds about ourselves. And so we build sort of defense mechanisms around that. And we start to put ourselves down as a way to survive whatever we're going through. And so flash forward to you're an adult and you're trying to do your art, coronavirus or not, and you start hearing that voice that's like, oh, no, you're not good enough. You know, you're never going to get it all done, whatever it is. That's a part of yourself that was actually trying to help you be okay at a time that you weren't okay. And so we don't want to immediately be like, that negative voice, let's eradicate it. Let's meditate it away. Instead, we want to get curious about it and bring some kindness to it. And so I'm a big fan of practicing like positive self-talk with those parts of self. So when a voice comes up for me that says, oh, no, you're not good at this, I say, oh, sweetheart, it sounds like you're feeling afraid, or it sounds like you're feeling sad or angry, and I'm here with you. And you get to feel that way. So just like you would, you know, talk to a child who's having a big feeling, I talk to that part of myself instead of being like, go away, that's not spiritual or that's not positive. No, instead, like I really embrace that part of self. And so that's part of the work too. So the calming and the soothing and the learning to work with the mind is very important. And then the self-love piece is equally important. And I think it's, I don't know, for me and for every artist I know, there's just this level of self-doubt, you know, that we really want to get rid of. We resist it. And what that does is it makes it stronger. And so if part of what you're dealing with is just anxiety around, you know, what's going to happen for your business in this climate, or what's going to happen for, you know, your just emotional well-being that allows you to create your art in this climate. The first thing we want to do is just bring some kindness. And so we can all just do that right now. Just go ahead and take your hand and just place it on your heart. And I want you to just tune into the part of you that is feeling anxious. the part of you that is feeling afraid, part of you that's feeling confused and uncertain. Maybe that perfectionist part that's coming up. And I just want you, with your hand on your heart, maybe even both hands, just saying to those parts of self, I see you. I love you too. I'm right here with you. I know this can feel a little weird if it's not something you're accustomed to doing, but over time it starts to feel really nice and your system starts to receive it. And so I invite you to do it even if it feels funny, even if it just feels dumb or embarrassing. Just give it a try. I see you, part of me that's anxious. I love you, part of me that's anxious. And I'm right here with you. Good, good. So, what I'd like to do now is just offer you a few simple techniques, and we'll do it in a guided practice right now together. So the first one we already started, which was at the top. I asked you to bring your attention to something that felt good or neutral in your body. And so this is called resourcing. It's a resource practice. And I'm very inspired by the work of Peter Levine. He's created somatic experiencing, which is a kind of trauma modality. And we're all kind of traumatized right now, so it's a really good time for this. And it's as simple as putting your attention somewhere where there's not a problem. So when one is feeling anxious, there tends to be tightness in the chest, maybe tightness in the throat, like a twisting feeling in the stomach, and a whole lot of thinking, spinning thoughts about whatever it is we're anxious about. Those things get tangled up in a knot, and then there we are in anxiety. And so this tool is about taking the emphasis off of all of that, off of the tangled up experience of anxiety, and putting it somewhere where we are not experiencing anxiety. So an example I like to use as to how this works is I deal with chronic illness issues. And at one point I was being rolled into a hospital and I was in so much pain because I was having like severe issues with my stomach and then also a migraine at the same time and a bunch of other like just intense physical sensations. And basically it just felt like my whole body hurt. But because I had this practice, I was able to notice, oh, actually my feet are not having a problem. And so I just put my attention there on my feet until they gave me drugs. and then I just like passed out. But I put my attention on my feet. And what that did is it just lowered the overwhelm and it allowed me to have at least moments of like coming up for air, And so anxiety is a kind of physical pain. It's painful when we're in that state. And so it works the same way. If we can shift our attention somewhere where the anxiety is not occurring, we get some space around it. We get a chance to let it process without being sort of processed with it in like a crashing waves kind of way. And so let's try that together first. And then I want to give you another tool that you can play around with, which is kind of the other end of the spectrum for working with anxiety. So go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to, again, take a few nice, slow, deep breaths, extending the exhale. Good. Now, you may or may not be aware of some discomfort right now. You may or may not be aware of some anxiety right now. But either way, I want you to move your attention to a place that is completely non-problematic. And maybe it's even a place that feels good in your body. So using your physical awareness, go ahead and scan through your body and find a spot that feels okay or even feels good. Now, if you're having trouble locating a spot like this, some popular spots for resourcing are feet, hands, and thighs, and sort of like butt. That can be a very grounded part of the body. And so that's another option, is to put the attention there. And so those are just some examples of where people often find resource, but it could totally be somewhere else for you. And all this is a spot that at the very least feels neutral. And if it doesn't feel pleasurable or good, it feels neutral. And so once you find a spot like this, just resting your attention there. And we're going to allow everything else to be in the background. You don't need to quiet your mind. You don't need to turn off your thoughts. And you don't need to create some perfect state of calm and peace and rest in your body. Your only job right now is to focus on this place that feels okay. Maybe it feels relaxed. Maybe there's some pleasure there. Or again, maybe it's just a neutral sensation. Now, if you find that your entire body just feels bad, which I understand that feeling, I want you to find a spot that just doesn't feel as bad. So for anyone who's just really having a tough time with the body right now, find a spot that just doesn't feel as bad. And focus there. Now, each time you're pulled into your mind, rather than judging yourself for that, rather than making yourself wrong, just notice, oh yeah, that's what the mind does. The mind thinks thoughts. Here I am in thoughts again. I'm going to go back to my body. I'm going to go back to resource. And each time that this happens, it's actually a moment for celebration. Because we've noticed. We went unconscious into our mind and we noticed. So you can celebrate that. And the other piece is that this is a practice. So we're practicing. So just like when you're practicing your art, you didn't do it the same way 10 years ago that you do today. You've practiced. And this is the same thing. We're just practicing. Coming back again and again to a place that feels good or feels neutral. Using this even as an opportunity to let go of some of the perfectionism or some of the need to get it right. Let it be easy, just practicing together. Just doing our best moment to moment. And each time you get pulled into the mind, remember, it's not a problem. Your mind creates thoughts just like your heart pumps your blood or your stomach digests your food. It's just doing its job. And we just have a habit of spending a lot of time in the mind. And so the pull to the mind is very strong. And that's fine. That's totally not a problem. When we notice that happening, just gently, without any judgment, bringing attention back to the body, back to a place that feels good or neutral, back to resource. Letting any anxious feelings or anxious thoughts move through. They just do their thing. You don't need to try to manage or control those thoughts or emotions. Your only job here is to come back to resource. You also get to put aside any of the other stuff that is on your to-do list today, or this week, or this month, or this year. You get to put aside being all the things you are in your life for yourself and for other people. You get to put aside even being an artist for a few minutes here. And just focus on resource. Just let it be simple. And what that does is it will recharge you, and you can bring that energy back into your art, back into your relationships, back into your family, all of this. You'll have extra energy for that if you put it all aside for a little bit right now. Let yourself rest and resource. Good. Taking a few deeper breaths. Maybe letting out a sigh. Just releasing any excess tension in the body. Maybe giving the shoulders a little roll. Maybe wiggling the fingers. The neck a roll or two if that feels good. Just bring some movement into the body. And then opening your eyes when you're ready. And I want you to check back in with yourself around this self-love piece. So was there a part of you that thought, oh, I'm not good at this meditation thing? Was there a part of you that started to get pulled away into thoughts about something you need to do and then judge yourself? Was there a part of you that just felt frustrated or even angry? Was there some emotion that came up when you slowed down with your body? And so again, just taking a hand on the heart if that feels good, or any other part of the body that feels supportive to you, and just checking in with those parts of self and just, hey, I see you. I love you. Right here with you. Right here with you. Good. So far, here's 3 tools. We have some breathing, just pausing and breathing throughout the day. And I invite you to do that while you're working on your project. So you're in the midst of editing something, you're in the midst of kind of creating a concept. Pause in the moment, right there in the moment. Just pause and breathe and see actually what else comes through as a result. Sometimes we clamp down around our creativity with the idea of like, I need to hold on to this idea, or I need to keep this flow going. What happens if we actually create space for more flow? And so this is just an invitation, something to explore while you're in your creative process. Bring some breath in, bring some relaxation in. See how that informs what you're doing. Also, just in general throughout your day, as a way to lower anxiety and stress, especially during this time, give yourself that gift of pausing, breathing, extending the exhale. It's going to soothe the whole nervous system. It's going to give you a place from which you can move in a skillful and kind and present way. Then we have the resource practice, which I encourage you to do that practice once a day for 5 or 10 minutes, just taking your attention to something that feels good or feels neutral in your body. Um, I believe I have it probably on my YouTube channel. If you want to send it out, Jessica, I'll see if I can find a link for that. But it's something you can easily do with or without the guidance. It's just sit down and just focus on something that feels good. And then the third piece is the self-love piece. And I can't tell you how important that piece is and what a huge asset that's been to me as a human and as an artist. Again, there's so much kind of doubt and fear that comes up when creating art. I'm sure there are people that are just like never anxious about their art. I haven't met them though. So I don't know who those people are. They probably exist. But right now, given the intensity of everything, it's up even more. And so the self-love, it's never steered me wrong. When I've been working on a project that's really challenging for me and that self-critic is really kind of like loud, for me to just pause and be like, oh, honey, I love you so much. I'm not going to get rid of you. You get to have your fear. You get to have your judgment. You get to feel however you're feeling. The self-love and the self-compassion, very powerful piece. There's a book called Self-Compassion by someone named Kristen Neff, and she has some really good tools and practices for self-compassion as well. So just a little recommendation on that. So the last thing I want to do here is I want to give you my favorite tool for anxiety, and I'm going to give you a short version of it, and then maybe we'll do this again and we'll do a longer version of it at some point. But basically the idea is what you resist persists. So if you're feeling anxiety about your work or anything else right now, to try to get rid of that anxiety, for anyone that's ever had an anxiety attack, that trying to get rid of it actually just makes it stronger. You're resisting it, you're creating more tension around it, more anxiety around it, and so it just gets bigger. And so the very first thing you want to do when you're experiencing some anxiety is just give it some acceptance. Right? This is another tool. So everything I've mentioned so far are things you can use for anxiety. This is another piece. Just say, oh yeah, there's some anxiety. I feel it in my chest. Just let yourself feel it. Totally let it be there. Oh, there's some anxious thoughts in my mind. Totally let them be there. This doesn't mean we engage with them or sort of wallow in them, but instead we just let them do their thing. An important aspect of this, though, is to separate out the thought from the sensation, because it's when the thoughts and the sensations combine that it becomes overwhelming. And so you can do this by just closing your eyes and noticing there's thinking and there's feeling. Two different strands of experience. The thoughts in my mind and the sensations in my body. And so for just a minute here, let's do it together. And you can do this whether you're experiencing anxiety right now or not. Just closing your eyes and noticing how these two experiences are actually separate. And you can even break them up into 3 experiences, because for some folks, there's visual thinking and auditory thinking. So there's like a daydream sort of images coming up in the mind. And then there's also words, sounds in the mind. And then there are the sensations in your body. And if you just notice, okay, these are separate strands, you can start to untangle them. And the anxiety becomes less powerful, because it's like a divide and conquer kind of thing. Rather than one big blob, it's several strands. And all the while, you're offering acceptance to whatever's arising. You're never trying to stop it from happening. You're just letting it happen as you notice the pieces that make it up. And then from this place, you can utilize any of the other techniques we've done. You can choose to go to resource and say, okay, I'm going to leave all this thought and emotion and anxiety alone. I'm going to put my attention on my feet and just feel my feet for a moment. You can also just pause and breathe if that feels good. And finally, you can just offer love to any part of you that you like. Giving love to any tightness you're feeling in the chest or the throat. Giving love to your mind even. Oh, sweet mind. You're really working hard, aren't you? I'm right here with you. Or any other part of self. Okay, when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. All right, so there's a toolkit for you. I hope that was helpful, and I don't know if anybody has any questions, but or if you have any questions, Jessica, and then we can say goodbye for today.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you. I was having a lot of anxiety going into this. I think I felt a lot of pressure to not look anxious in front of my children, to, not present a lot of anxiety. And then even when here we have this time and I see the one person who I think I don't want around, and she's here. But what was interesting is I was nervous that at some point she would, while we were breathing, do whatever. I found my anxiety levels, even around that, becoming so much lower. And so this was extremely helpful to me. I think I had been feeling very, what's the word I want to use? Not stiff, brittle, almost, from maintaining a facade of calm while, not feeling very calm. And this was very helpful, the resourcing, all of that stuff. What about, would you say, I think this would be the question that I have. What about for the people who are the opposite of those folks who are feeling like they're going to get a lot done? What about for the people who have felt like they have stumbled in all of this and feel this almost overwhelming need to keep checking the news or keep checking their Facebook, and they can't? I was struggling until I made a schedule for myself. And my schedule has been blown to smithereens, and I've recreated schedules for myself. I couldn't create. I simply felt this ticking, this nudge, go check the news. And so it was hard for me to create. I finally did. But what would you offer to people who are struggling to create, who are struggling to find a little normalcy here and are looking for a routine and a schedule?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's about giving yourself permission to be in the space you're in, right? And I've been seeing this thing go around on social media about parents with their kids and how you shouldn't feel like you're supposed to completely recreate school for your kids because it's not possible right now. And if this is still going on in 6 months, well, then but like in the near future, like don't try to recreate that whole thing, because actually there's a process of just, for homeschoolers, there's this whole process of just like settling into what is it like to be at home first. And so I found that really interesting and helpful for parents that I know, that like, don't think that you're just going to completely recreate school immediately. I think that's the same thing for artists. Like, don't assume that you can just completely recreate what you were doing before this started, because again, this is completely new. It's like if you moved to a new country and then you immediately thought you should be doing everything exactly how you were doing it before you moved. It's like we're in a whole new territory.
That is a wonderful point. That is such a profound point, because I feel like we are sort of expecting ourselves to run with this seamlessly and are wondering why aren't we X, Y, or Z. And it's very true. If we were to move, we would allow ourselves some days to get acclimated. And, I think that's a really great point.
Yeah. Same thing if we went through a breakup or experienced the loss of a loved one, right? Like, we're also going through a kind of grief and trauma right now. And we wouldn't expect ourselves, or maybe we would expect ourselves, but it wouldn't be fair to expect ourselves to like experience some big loss and then go right into like, I'm going to now like create my finest work ever. Like maybe what's happened here during this crisis is that we all end up creating like even more amazing art because we're inspired, but it's not fair to expect that of ourselves because we're all dealing with, on one level or another, intense emotions. We're all like, I think we're all still just processing that just the beginning of this, right? Like it's like an really intense shift. So that's number one. Don't expect that of yourself. But number two is, yeah, I think a schedule is really helpful. And I think the whole one day at a time thing is really helpful. I have had some days. So I had a day where I spent 7 hours remotely editing a film that I directed. That was a super productive day. And then I had days where I just felt like this all day, and I did a puzzle until 3 a.m. Like I just like, so it's like, it's one day at a time. And just because yesterday, you weren't able to do any of your art and you sort of just felt lost in the feed and in the news, doesn't mean that tomorrow can't be a day that you do create your art. It's and vice versa, right? And so really staying in the day. I think for me, the slowing down and the making time for some kind of connection to whatever your spiritual thing is or your self-care thing is, really making time for that each day. So for me, meditation, actually, even though it feels like, wait, this isn't doing the work, this isn't doing my creative work, it gives you the fuel for it. It really does. So I think that's really important, to make time for that. But then also tuning into your creative energy, even when you're feeling creatively blocked, is easier than we think. So I'm going to get just a little bit woo-woo here. Everything is creative. Like the universe is creating and recreating itself moment by moment. Each breath we have is this beautiful creation. Every word we say, every egg we boil, every tree that's waving in the wind, this is all just creation. It's just a beautiful creative expression that's happening all the time, all around us. And if you can tune in, this right here is this what's happening right here is part of what I'm saying. Like, this is creative energy and it's available to us, and all we need to do is incline towards it. And so just noticing, look at some art in your house. Like I have several different framed things in my house, and I'm just looking at it and I'm just tuning into, okay, that's creativity right there. I didn't paint that. I didn't take that photo, but like, look at that. And just tuning into it and allowing yourself to kind of just drop into that possibility, opening up to the possibility that it's here. There's nothing you need to go and get. There's nothing you need to like pull your bootstraps up around. It's already here. The creativity is already here. Just like, get in that river. You're already in
it. And maybe this is a new stimulus and you just go with
it. Exactly.
No, I do apologize because I clearly am having I have a 3.
This makes me so happy. Like, I'm really missing my niece and my nephews. So to me, this is great.
Hi, Miss Jessica.